165, 166, 167, 168, 169, 170, 1170, 1171, 1172, 1173, 174, 175, 1176, 1177, 1178, 1179, 1180, 1181, 1182, 1183, 1184, 1185, 186, 187, 188, 189, 1190, 191, 192, 193, 194, 195, 196, 197, 198, 199, 1200, 1201, 202, 203, 204, 1205, 206, 207, 1208, 1209. Senator Titus Zam, PhD. Can you now move for the adoption of both and proceeding yesterday, former chairman and former this, former that?
Your Excellency, the President of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Dr. Titus Zam. I represent the very dynamic people of Benue Northwest Senatorial District, and I rise to move that the votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 2nd December 2025 be adopted as the true reflection of all that transpired yesterday. I so move, Mr. Senate President. Thank you very much.
Senator Comrade Tony Nwoye, you may second the motion.
Thank you, my President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Dr. Tony Nwoye, representing Anambra North. I second the motion as ably moved by Senator Zam Titus. I so second. Thank you.
Those in favor of the motion that the votes and proceedings of yesterday be adopted as moved by Senator Titus Zam and seconded by Senator Comrade Tony Nwoye, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The votes and proceeding of Tuesday, 2nd day of December 2025 is hereby adopted. Announcement. I wish to acknowledge the presence of the chieftains of Oron Union who are here to observe our proceedings of today. You may wish to stand up. We wish you happy observation of proceedings. And after whatever you want to do in Abuja, after you leave here, we wish you safe trip back to your various destinations. You may need to sit down. I also have the honor to recognize the former chairman of Kano State local government areas, led by the former Algon chairman, and other members, and then of course two House of Assembly members, one representing Sumaila, and the other one representing Gari and Sanya constituencies, who are here to observe our proceedings of today. You are most welcome, and we wish you happy observation of our proceedings. And whenever you are done, we wish you happy trip back to Kano State. Thank you very much. You may sit down. Any petition?
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Oshitangu. I represent Enugu West. Mr. President, the petition I have is from Kenechukwu Eruchie and Co. Real Estate Surveyors. Just simple. They have approached Alo Chamber because of an unpaid debt for jobs they have done for the Ministry of Works, Lands and Urban Development several years ago. They are hoping that this chamber will give them listening ear and do justice, and this matter is not in court.
Is there any legal encumbrance? Is
No.
the matter before any court of law?
No, sir.
You may wish to lay the petition on the table. The petition is referred to the Committee on Ethics, Code of Conduct and Public Petitions to report back within 4 weeks. The Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the first business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of most distinguished Senator Kombowe Benson Friday on the Petroleum Industry Act 2021, Amendment Bill 2025, SB 312. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
The Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Petroleum Industry Act 2021 Amendment Bill 2025 SB 312, first reading.
Petroleum Industry Act 2021 Amendment Bill 2025 SB 312, first reading taken. The Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the second business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of most distinguished Senator Kaka Shehu Lawan, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, on the Bostal Institution and Remand Centers Act Amendment Bill 2025 SB 958. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
The Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Bostal Institution and Remand Centers Act Amendment Bill 2025 SB 958, first reading.
Bostal Institution and Remand Centers Act Amendment Bill 2025 SB 958, first reading taken. The Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the third business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of most distinguished Senator Plan Diket Satso on the National Center for Artificial Intelligence and Digital Innovation, Jos Plateau State Establishment Bill 2025 SB 973. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
The Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, National Center of Artificial Intelligence and Digital Innovations, Jos Plateau State Establishment Bill 2025 SB 973, first reading.
National Center for Artificial Intelligence and Digital Innovation, Jos Plateau State Establishment Bill 2025, first reading. SB Bill 2025 SB 973, first reading taken. The Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fourth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of most distinguished Senator Ikpea Joseph on the National Center for Renewable Energy, EWATO, Edo State Establishment Bill 2025 SB 974. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
The Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, National Center for Renewable Energy, Ewato, Edo State Establishment Bill 2025 SB 974, first reading.
National Center for Renewable Energy, Ewato, Edo State Establishment Bill 2025 SB 974, first reading taken. The Leader of the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. President, and very distinguished colleagues. The first order of the day is the second reading of an executive bill on the Legal Practitioners Act, Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2025 SB 965. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read for the first time in this hallowed chamber on Thursday, 27th November 2025. Mr. President, with your permission, I move that the bill be read a second time, and in support of my motion, I would like to present the lead debate.
Sorry for the technical hitch. You may proceed.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, please, I most respectfully implore our distinguished colleagues to resume their seat, please. Please resume your seat, please.
Order, please, distinguished senators, resume your seats. Very important bill is about to be read for the second time. Very, very important bill that concerns the legal practice in Nigeria.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I rise to lead the debate on the general principles of the Legal Practitioners Act, Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2025 SB 965. This is a law captured in Chapter L11, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, and following its repeal to enact the Legal Practitioners Bill 2025 to provide for holistic reform and regulation of the legal profession in Nigeria in line with modern realities. The bill was read for the first time in this hallowed chamber on Thursday, 27th November 2025. Mr. President and very distinguished colleagues, may I also add that this bill is a stakeholders bill agreed upon by both the members of the bar as well as the bench in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It is imperative to note, Mr. President and dear colleagues, that the Legal Practitioners Act currently in operation is almost 6 decades old in context and structure, as it was designed for a legal environment that no longer exists. The nature of legal practice today has drastically evolved with technology, digital court processes, multi-dimensional commercial transactions, cross-border legal issues, and increased public demands for accountability and ethical conduct. Accordingly, it is necessary to ensure that our regulatory framework must evolve to meet these new realities. Distinguished colleagues, the bill before us today provides a unique opportunity for the comprehensive modernization of the legal profession in line with global standards, as observed in jurisdictions such as the United Kingdom, Canada, South Africa, and Kenya. One of the salient objectives of this bill is the aspect that seeks to restructure and empower the body of benchers as the apex regulatory institution for the first time in the history of this country. This restructuring initiative focuses principally on corporate legal personality, financial autonomy, strengthened secretariat, clear rule-making authority, and institutional structure for committees and oversight. This will no doubt ensure a coordinated and well-modernized regulatory framework that addresses admission to the bar, discipline, and professional standards. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, permit me at this juncture to point out one of the major gaps in the current law, which is the slow and ineffective disciplinary system for addressing professional misconduct. This proposed legislation has therefore restructured the Legal Practitioner Discipline Committee by 1. Allowing multiple panels to sit across the country, 2. Giving the LPDC clearer sanctioning powers, including suspension, 3. Striking off restitution, compensation costs, and formal apology, 4. Mandating publication of disciplinary outcomes for transparency, and 5. Giving practitioners the right of appeal to the Supreme Court. Furthermore, distinguished colleagues, the bill also contemplates to create a new ethics, adherence, and enforcement committee, which is going to function as a professional investigative body, empowered to inspect law offices, demand documents and explanations, investigate complaints from the public, ensure compliance with regulations, and prosecute cases before the Legal Practitioner Disciplinary Committee. These innovative initiatives are the major milestones of this bill, geared toward promoting discipline and restoration of public confidence in the profession. Another innovative aspect of the proposed bill is the provision that introduces 2 years of mandatory pupillage for lawyers, newly called to the Nigerian bar, except in approved special cases, as well as the mandatory continuing professional development as a requirement for renewing a practicing license. This is to ensure that lawyers stay updated and competent throughout their careers. Also, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, worthy of mentioning is the provision that criminalizes unauthorized legal practice to curb the growing concerns about impostors and unqualified individuals posing as lawyers. The bill clearly defines the practice of law and criminalizes unauthorized practice, which is essential for the protection of citizens from fraud and abuse. The bill is also envisaged to regulate foreign lawyers, reform the rank of senior advocates of Nigeria, and enhance client protection and financial safeguards, among others. In conclusion, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, this bill is the most far-reaching reform of the Nigerian legal profession in this country, as its provisions are streamlined to further strengthen discipline, improve competence, protect clients, modernize the profession, support young lawyers, and enhance public confidence in the justice system. I therefore urge you all to support the second reading of this bill. I thank you, Mr. President, and distinguished colleagues.
I can see the Chief Whip raising his hands, with the serious determination and passion, because it affects his constituency. So you have the floor.
But if any of my senior colleagues, the senior advocates of Nigeria, have raised their hand to speak for this on this bill, I think I will defer to them first. If any of my Leonard Silk, should I continue? Okay. So, Mr. President, my seniors in the bar, Dilana Silkap, considered to me to lead the debate. Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Mohamed Tahir Mongono. I represent Borno North Senatorial District. Mr. President, this bill is very apt and germane, especially looking at it against the background of the fact that the world has moved. The world is now governed by technology. As such, the practice of the legal profession cannot be divorced from the realities of today's world, especially technology. And this bill seeks to train and retrain lawyers by way of continuing legal education to bring their knowledge in consonance with modern day realities of technology. This is also very germane and noble, so that the legal profession cannot be left with regard to realities of today. Then, Mr. President, distinguished senators, another aspect is the powers that is now given to the legal practitioners disciplinary committee, not only to back but bite in the discharge of its statutory duties of punishing legal practitioners that have erred or have engaged in professional misconduct in the course of practicing the profession, and also giving more powers by way of restructuring the body of benches to give it more regulatory powers to regulate the profession, stamp out quackery, and to bring the profession in tandem with modern realities, as well as continuing legal mandatory tutelage for 2 years. All these things does not exist. I was called to the bar 35 years ago. So when I was called to the bar, there is no internet and what have you, but now there is internet and what have you. So young lawyers must come to terms with modern realities. Thank you.
Well, I think this bill is just about bringing modernity into the legal profession. It does not need much debate. Very straightforward, considering how the lead debate is so articulate and direct to the point, well put together. Everything is well open, and then you also emphasize what the leader has talked about. So, in this regard, let me put the question: is it the wish of the Senate that this bill be read a second time? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to repeal the Legal Practitioners Act, Capt. L11, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004, and enact the Legal Practitioners Act to provide for reforms, regulate the legal profession, and for related matters, 2025, SB 965, second reading.
A bill for an act to repeal the Legal Practitioners Act, Cap. L11, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004, and enact the Legal Practitioners Bill, 2025, to provide for reforms, regulate the legal profession, and for related matters, 2025, second reading taken. The bill is referred to the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters to report back within 4 weeks. Let me commend the leader and the chief whip for their for providing us with the full picture of what the bill entails. You know, the lead debate was so eloquently put together and well explained, and the chief whip, being a learned person as well, also hammered and gave more bite to the lead debate as explained by the leader. And I think this will bring the legal profession into conformity with modernity, thereby enhancing the operation of the practitioners of the legal profession in Nigeria, making them more productive and moving the entire profession in Nigeria in line with the global best practices. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the second order of the day is the second reading of the Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act Amendment Bill 2025, SB 969. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read for the first time in this hallowed chamber on Thursday, 27th November 2025. Mr. President, with your permission, I move that the bill be now read a second time, and in support of my motion, I seek your permission to present a lead debate.
The leader, you may proceed.
Thank you, sir. Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, lead debate on a bill for an act to amend the Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act to designate kidnapping as an act of terrorism and to prescribe the death penalty for such offenses and for related matters, 2025 SB 969.
Oh, okay, yeah. From your back, I thought you were Goje, holding a side meeting during plenary. Olamileko. Yes, Leader of the Senate, continue.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished senators, resume your seat, please.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, lead debate on a bill for an act to amend the Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act to designate kidnapping as an act of terrorism and to prescribe the death penalty for such offenses and for related matters, 2025 SB 965. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to lead the debate on the general principles of the Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Amendment Bill 2025. The bill seeks to amend the extant law to, among other things, designate kidnapping, hostage taking, and related offenses as acts of terrorism, and to prescribe death penalty for such offenses without option of fine or alternative sentence, among others. This bill was read for the first time on Thursday, 27th November 2025. And Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, may I also add that this bill is coming pursuant to the resolve of this 10th Senate and the 10th Assembly to join hands with Mr. President and other arms of government in bringing a lasting solution to the insecurity challenge that we are faced with as a country. 3 weeks ago, this hallowed chamber, the Senate held an executive session, and part of the resolutions at the executive session was that the office of the Senate leader should, without any delay, come up with a bill that will redesignate kidnapping as an act of terrorism, thereby attracting a death penalty. So this bill is part of the resolutions of the 10th Senate. This bill, the contemplation of this bill, Mr. President and my colleagues, is a direct response to one of the gravest security challenges threatening the lives, livelihoods, and future of our people. It is a known fact that in our country today, kidnapping has become one of the most pervasive and destructive crimes. What once started as isolated incidents have now escalated into a well-coordinated, commercialized, and highly militarized acts of violence perpetrated by organized criminal groups. So prevalent is the kidnapping situation that there is hardly any region of our country that no kidnapping cases are reported. This development has instilled widespread fear in communities, undermined national economic activities and agricultural output, interrupted children's education, bankrupted families due to payment of ransom, claimed countless innocent lives, as well as overstretched our security forces. The objectives of this bill, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, are threefold. One, it seeks to designate kidnapping and hostage-taking as acts of terrorism. This classification will further empower our security agencies with broader operational authority, intelligence capabilities, and prosecutorial tools available under counter-terrorism law. Secondly, the bill seeks to prescribe death penalty without an option of fine or lesser sentence for kidnapping and hostage-taking because of their catastrophic impact on national security and the well-being of the people. This stringent punishment is to serve as deterrence to perpetrators. Thirdly, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, the bill seeks to dismantle kidnapping networks by enabling stronger enforcement regime aimed at placing kidnapping under the terrorism framework, where relevant agencies can pursue asset tracing and forfeiture, intelligence-led operations, interagency coordination, swift pre-trial procedures under terrorism laws, as well as disruption of funding and logistics chains. Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, the pattern of organization, brutality, and destabilization association with kidnapping now carry all the characteristics of terrorism. Therefore, it is no longer feasible to treat these acts as ordinary criminal offenses. As such, the legal framework reflects the true magnitude of the threat. This will ultimately help to weaken the infrastructure that sustains kidnapping syndicates. Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, by enacting this proposed legislation as an act of the National Assembly, we, as legislators, will be fulfilling our moral, constitutional, and legislative duties to protect the lives of Nigerians. And it will undoubtedly send a clear message that Nigeria no longer tolerates kidnapping as an enterprise or weapon of terror. On this note, I therefore respectfully urge my distinguished colleagues to support this bill, your bill, for second reading, and to allow it to proceed to the committee stage for further legislative refinement. I thank you, Mr. President, and distinguished colleagues.
Distinguished Senator Oshomole.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I rise to support in toto everything that the lead presenter of this bill has said. And the only thing I want to further emphasize is that this bill will also cure the mischief in the Terrorist Act, because we have seen in the distant past where terrorists apprehended who have killed, maimed, and committed heinous crimes were, in the name of de-radicalization, they were arrested, quote and unquote, de-radicalized, retrained, fed with taxpayers' money, and as we know now, some of these guys went back to continue with the acts of terrorism. So my understanding of this reinforcement of the Terrorism Act by including kidnapping is that such disclosure will not be available to anyone, whether in the armed forces or even in the executive. Because we can't spend so much money, expend so much energy to apprehend very dangerous people who have killed, maimed, buried children alive, and in the end when they are apprehended, somebody come from somewhere and say, look, we need to use all sorts of jargons to justify why these guys should not face the wrath of the law, which is to face trial and if convicted, sentenced to death. Until people begin to see those who have killed, even in the Bible and the Holy Quran, he who kills has no right to life. And so I believe that by emphasizing this law in the manner that the leader of the Senate has very ably articulated all the elements of the law, that the message should be clear. Those discretion are withdrawn. No more de-radicalization. If you are caught after committing heinous crimes, the penalty is death if convicted. Thank you, Mr. President, and I want to thank the Senate leader for, very articulate presentation of what I believe is our collective feelings with regards to this issue of kidnapping and terrorism. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes. Distinguished colleagues, I hope in the course of the public hearing, we will capture the sponsors of the kidnappers and the appropriate punishment to be given to them. And then we will also...
Informants.
Okay, Senator Wama could say something.
Mr. President, my dear colleagues, Aliyu Mwamako are my names, Sokoto knows. Mr. President, I rise to support this motion ably moved by Senate leader, which is wonderfully presented and most timely presented. This motion, Mr. President, cannot come at a better time than now, when we're fighting left and right with the issue menace of voluntary terrorism and kidnapping in our dear country. And as country's lawmakers, this motion is a this bill is a contribution, is a big contribution from this chamber to the government's effort in curbing the menace of insecurity, banditry, and terrorism in this country. I therefore second the motion. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. Distinguished Senator Ojus Akalo. Where is Senator Sanimosa?
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Ojus Akalo. I represent Abia North. Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, I'm not sure that this bill brought by the leader of the Senate was a bill agreed by all of us. All 109 senators agreed in a closed session that we must get this bill across and sent to Mr. President. Mr. President, I believe it's a high time. There's no town and villages that there are no kidnappers in Nigeria. So I believe this bill is apt, is a natural thing to do, and we will go, as my colleague Wabako said, we go for the informat sponsors, people they use their houses to do this thing, including everybody involved, whether security agents, whether it's police, whether it's army, whether it's navy, air force, or lawyer, anybody will be putting in that bill. We have to reappraise this bill sent by a senior leader and touch it up so that it will come to a real standard that will protect Nigerians. Nigerians have suffered in the hands of kidnappers. This must stop. I'm a Christian faith, but we don't support death penalty. But I support death penalty for this because people must stop harassing Nigerians. Young girls are raped, women are raped for no reason because they are kidnapped and money taken. People have gone bankrupt in their businesses. Mr. President, let me raise my case and thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I remain Abamoro. Mr. President, I think quite frankly that this bill is a very straightforward bill. Apart from the content, it was a unanimous decision of the Senate that the Senate leader brings up this bill. And the intendment was very clear, that kidnapping must be properly designated, its consequences aptly identified, and punishments meted out appropriately. And so, Mr. President, I think that we should go ahead and allow for a second reading of this bill in the hope that a properly designated act of criminality with its concomitant punishment will act as a deterrent to the daily occurrence of kidnapping in our country. Particularly, Mr. President, this kidnapping has become a business. A business because negotiations are carried out, ransoms are paid, and so these perpetrators are emboldened by the financial benefits that accrue to their acts to continue to terrorize Nigerians. And of course, I hope very sincerely too that the foundation of this crime must be appropriately identified, even though I do not subscribe to the fact that because of certain conditions, certain persons will take laws into their hands and begin to perpetrate mayhem on the ordinary Nigerians who are also suffering the same environment. And so, Mr. President, I support this bill, and I hope that my colleagues in all will support the bill and that justice will be done to the bill at the public hearing and the bill passed into law to safeguard the lives and property of Nigerians. I so submit, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, Senator Ome.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Victor Ume, OFR. I represent Anambra Central Senatorial District. Mr. President, thank you for this opportunity to contribute to the debate on this bill. Kidnapping and the gruesome murders of victims that we have witnessed in this country will irritate every man of conscience to rise to support this bill. When you look at various cases of kidnapping where ransoms have been paid, running into tens, 20, and sometimes 100 million, these kidnappers to receive this money and still kill their victims. We have seen this a lot of times. Therefore, people who ply this trade deserve no mercy. What we have to do is to do everything to provide the law that will brand it act of terrorism, because it is act of terrorism. Their modus operandi does not differ from terrorism. When we make law that this shall be capital punishment for any offender or somebody who is arrested for it, Mr. President, we have to go deep to the people who facilitate these businesses. It's not only the kidnappers that carry gun, abduct their victims that are involved in this business. Financial institutions also are part of it. Because it beats my imagination that people will pay ransom 100 million naira through financial payment platforms, and these monies will be received by the financial institutions, and they do not give any lead to the account owners through which these ransoms are received. Many people have gone through hell through this process. Therefore, as we go after the real kidnappers that are identified, we have to go after the financial institutions through which these ransoms are received. Anybody or financial institution that receives any money from a kidnapped victim must be held responsible for it. Because our law forbids banks to indulge in illicit financial transactions. So in passing this bill, maybe during public hearing, we have to identify appropriate punishment to any financial institution that will receive monies collected by kidnappers from their victims. Again, the other issue, Mr. President, that you touched, you said we should take during public hearing, is going after the sponsors. Mr. President, there's no difference between a sponsor and a kidnapper. They are all the same. So the law will take care of the sponsors and the kidnappers at the same time. Punishment will be the same, both for sponsors and the actual executors of this heinous crime against Nigerian citizens. So on this note, Mr. President, I do not need to belabor it. But what is important is also that in making this law, there must be the political will to implement the convictions handed down. Because people are convicted in this country and they are not executed for murder, for all kinds of things that take human life away. So somebody can go and kill somebody and believe that once he gets there, he can stay there for another 30 years. That is not the intent of this law. This law, when passed, shall be executed by those who are saddled with responsibilities by giving that authorization for the execution of people who are so convicted, so that the deterrence which we are pursuing through this law will become effective. Anybody who thinks that if I do this and I'm caught, I will be killed, will have to know that the price for this crime is also death. So by the time they lift their guns or whatever means to kill anybody, some people are strangled to death. Some people are strangled. So when they are got, they should know that the price is death and they cannot escape it. It's only when we begin to implement it according to the law that it will act as the deterrence for which this law is being made. I thank you, Mr. President, so that my colleagues will contribute. This is a terrible thing that we will never allow to happen to any person. We don't need to wish this thing to any person, because when you discuss with victims who manage to escape from captivity, you see that the people behind this business are animals. So on this note, Mr. President, I hold support. I do not want to belabor it anymore. Let it be. And any soul that sailed, it shall die. That's what the Bible says, according to Shomole. Any sin, any soul that sinneth, itself shall die. So when you kill, you should die. That is the compensation for killing another person. Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'm so happy that I've contributed. God bless you.
Distinguished colleagues, is there anybody who is opposed to this bill? No. Let me ask again. Is there anybody who is opposed to this bill? If there is nobody who is opposed to this bill, I just want to remind us that this was the resolution of the Nigerian Senate. So it's not really something we debate. It's something we fast track to go for public hearing and thereafter concurrence. Because in reality, everything you are saying here, you must say it at a public hearing and then panel beat it in order to suit the situation of today. The heading, you want to change it now, or
This is a resolution
we haven't come
of an executive session. Therefore, these headings should read sponsored by or pay me by Middle Housing and 108 others. That should be the heading.
that is carried. Clerk, note that $108. Because everything is pay me, so that is very correct. Now, distinguished colleagues, those who support that this bill be now read a second time, say aye. Aye. And those again say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to amend Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act to designate kidnapping, hostage-taking, and related offenses as act of terrorism, to prescribe death penalty for such offenses without option of fine or alternative sentences, and for related matters 2025 SB 969, second reading.
Okay. Distinguished colleagues, a bill for an act to amend the Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act to designate kidnapping, hostage-taking, and related offenses as acts of terrorism, to prescribe death penalty for such offenses without option of fine or alternative sentences, and for related matters 2025. Second reading taken. As a result of the importance of this bill is now committed to the committees on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters, National Security and Intelligence, the Committee on Interior, and the lead committee will be the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters, to report back to the Senate within 2 weeks. I hope 2 weeks is good enough. Within 2 weeks. I want to thank distinguished colleagues for sticking by their resolution. Sticking by their resolution that there is no straightforward way of fighting these acts of kidnapping and terrorism in our country. We have to show resoluteness, we have to show seriousness. And I do know that once we make this law and it's signed into an act of parliament, it will, of course, override every other thing that is being done in all states of the Federation, because any act that is made by the National Assembly takes precedence over state laws. And as stated in our Constitution, is in conflict. We have to protect the future Nigerians. To meet immediately, I have stated it.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Mohammed Anjim Ogodia, presenting Gombe Central Gombe State. Mr. President, you are doing your former job. Mr. President,
Distinguished Senator Oshomole, Distinguished Senator Sadiq, Distinguished Senator Dembise, resume your seats. Resume your seats.
President, I am on my feet. I am coming on order 42.
Which is the same thing you complain about.
Do I come in?
No, go on, because they are still doing it.
Do I read the order or I just go ahead?
Go ahead on the order 42. You know you can read so that people will know.
Order 42, by the indulgence of the Senate and the leave of the President of the Senate, a senator may make a personal explanation, although there be no question before the Senate, but no controversial matter may be brought forward. Nor may debate arise upon the explanation. The terms of the proposed statement shall be submitted in detail to the President of the Senate when his leave to make it is sought.
Distinguished colleagues, distinguished Senator Goje mentioned an issue to me and gave me the details of what he wanted to say on the floor. So is it the view of the Senate that he be given the chance to say something without bringing any controversial issue? Those in support say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. You may proceed.
So, Mr. President, I want to talk on what really transpired yesterday and the way the section of the social media misinterpreted what happened yesterday. My intention of calling that order was not to go against the Senate President personally or to fight him in a manner that was reported yesterday. The idea is to contribute my quota as an experienced parliamentarian to ensure that the Senate follows the rules. But there's nothing personal against the Senate President or against any senator. And I want the social media, please, to take note. Because the way it was portrayed yesterday was that some people say, Goje challenge Senate President. Or there was a drama. There was no drama. There was just like that. I only raised a normal point of order 55 based on our rules. And the Senate President gave me a chance based on our rules. And everything was sorted out. There was no controversy and there was no fight. Please, social media and other members of the press, I want to kindly call upon you to report what really transpires in this Senate correctly, so that Nigerians will know actually what happens, not somebody's views. Please, and please, and please. That's all. That's my decision, Mr. President. We didn't fight yesterday. It was not a fight.
Well, point of order is hereby sustained. But I can tell you what will happen. Social media will say, Goje re-emphasizes. No, you know, but you know, I would have been a good editor in Sun. You didn't hear me? I would have been a good editor in Sun newspaper. So Goje re-emphasizes is a point of order. So I thank you for the explanation, but I hope they will hear that there is no fight in the Senate and that we are all one. Thank you for your listening. Please, just a correspondence which you were expecting and which you wanted to treat immediately in order to help Mr. President conclude.
People from going there.
refix his cabinet and continue with the fight against terrorism and kidnapping. So this is the correspondence we are about to treat. Distinguished Senator Godswill Akpabio, GCON, and then Distinguished Senate President request for confirmation of a nominee, a ministerial nominee. In compliance with the provisions of Section 1472 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, I am pleased to forward for confirmation by the Senate the nomination of Christopher Kwabin Musa as Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It's actually General Christopher Musa. Maybe now that he's going to wear khaki, they just put Christopher, they didn't put General. While I hope that this request will receive the usual expeditious consideration of the Senate, please accept, distinguished Senate President, distinguished senators, the assurances of my highest regards. Yours sincerely, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, President, Commander-in-Chief, Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. This is immediately stood down for consideration by Committee of the Whole. Yes, Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President. My order is Mr. President, distinguished senators, my order is order 24 sub 2A. Order 24 sub 2A. Mr. President, order 24 2A. Mr. President, these rules, we gave it to ourselves on our own volition to observe it in compliance but not in breach.
And it's also constitutional section 60.
And is the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which is the grand norm of the land in section 60, gave us the powers to regulate ourselves. Pursuant to that, we gave these rules to ourselves. And in section 24, 26, 24, 2A and D, these our rules clearly and unambiguously stated that one, it defined the office of the chief whip. It went further to state the duties of the chief whip, wherein in very clear and unequivocal terms, it states the duty of the chief whip is to maintain order and decorum in the Senate. That is the duty of the chief whip. So, distinguished colleagues, I want a situation whereby if this chief whip invokes the powers that is conferred to his office, it should be complied with without let or hindrance, so that we'll have decorum in the way and manner we conduct our proceedings, especially when we are on live television. And I still want to reiterate my earlier call for us to amend our rules, just like in the House of Representatives when I served as a chief whip. For anybody to approach the chair, he must have the permission of the chief whip first to approach the chair. That is the practice in the House of Reps. So that we can have decorum.
Distinguished colleagues, distinguished colleagues, I can hear some people saying the chief whip is right, and I can also hear others saying no. Nobody will get permission from the chief whip to approach the chair until the rule is amended, but your point of order is sustained. Yes, Yes, Deputy Senate President.
Furtherance to the observation that was made by the Chief Whip, I want to come under Order 55, 9, and of course 10. 9 says, when a senator is speaking, no senator may converse aloud or make any noise or disturbance to interrupt him. 10. During a sitting, all senators shall be silent or shall confer only in undertones. I think if we have been doing or observing these two orders, there wouldn't have been the need for him to come under the order he raised. But we are working in breach of these two orders. So I call on my colleagues. This is the #1 assembly in the country, the highest assembly. So we need to make sure that we do the needful during sitting. No noise, and if you want to say anything, go close to your colleague and confine undertones. Because the world, not only Nigeria, the #1 democracy in Africa. In Africa, so everybody is watching, and whatever we do here is watched through live streaming. People in America, in the Caribbean, everywhere they are watching us, in Europe. And today is even live. Even when it is not live, it's seen everywhere, and people watch us. So please, let's, this is Hello Chamber. So please, let's kind of observe decorum. Let's do our things in line with our status as the #1 assembly in Africa, not even Nigeria, in Africa. I so, Mr. President.
Yes. Your point of order, Deputy Senate President, is sustained. So please help the Chief Whip to help us. And like the Deputy Senate President said, if we were observing Order 9, 10, there would have been no need for the Chief Whip to come under Order 24. He's decided to invoke his powers to let you know that the fact that you are doing these things without getting permission from him is not correct. So both of them are right. So we must ensure decorum. Leader of the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. President, and very distinguished colleagues. The third order of the day is the screening and confirmation of the nomination of General Christopher Gwabin Musa for appointment as a minister of the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria in accordance with Section 147, Sub 2 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as altered. Mr. President, distinguished senators, in order to carry out this exercise in conformity with our standing Order 12 on floor privileges, I will move two motions. First, I move that the Senate do resolve into the Committee of the Whole to conduct the confirmation hearing, and two, I will be moving that we suspend the relevant provisions of Order 12 of our rules to enable us admit strangers into the chamber. The stranger now including the nominee and those who will be accompanying him, as well as the special advisor to Mr. President on National Assembly Matters, Senate. Finally, that if tallies with the wisdom of this hallowed chamber, let me say it again, that the preponderance of the screening be done in closed door session after the introductory remarks by the nominee himself having been first screened and confirmed by the 10th Senate. Then, while seeking to assume office as the Chief of General Staff of the Armed Forces, That will be the purport of my motion, Mr. President. I so move.
Leader, please approach the chair.
Leader of the Senate.
Please, sir.
Leader of the Senate.
Yeah. Mr. President, electoral matters. Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the minority leader had not stood up actually to second my motion because apparently we were not ripe for that. The special advisor to Mr. President on National Assembly matters is on his way with the nominee. So in view of that, Mr. President, I would move that we step down, we stand down the third order of the day to enable us take the fourth order of the day, which is the presentation and consideration of the report of the Committee on Capital Market on the sale of Lafarge Cement PLC to Chinese investors. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Izunaso Osita to move the motion for the Senate to receive and consider the report of the committee.
Well, first, the minority leader. Do you accept that we step down the item and move over to the next one? There are two motions there.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion moved by the Senate leader to step down an earlier motion that was moved. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved and seconded that we do step down the confirmation hearing to enable the special advisor to get ready. Those in support of the motion say aye, and those against say nay. The ayes have it. Then please, Senator Izunaso, you have the floor on the capital market.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Osita Izunaso. I represent Imo West. Mr. President, I rise to move that the Senate do receive and consider the report of the committee. The report of the committee on capital market on the federal government to halt the sale of Lafarge Cement PLC to Chinese investors in the interest of national security. I so move, Mr. President.
Yeah, proceed. Well, Senator Izunaso, you move a motion to present the report. Was there any seconder? Senator Ojus Okalo may help you out. No, you have proceeded, Senator Ojus Okalo. Okay, Senator Jim Ibrahim.
My name is Jim Ibrahim. I represent
Senator Izunaso,
and I rise to support the motion moved by the presentation of the capital market report by the chairman of my committee, Senator Uzunazo. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved and seconded that the report on capital market be presented to us for further deliberation. Those in support say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. You may proceed now to lay the report. Yes, you may wish to put just the synopsis and summarize the report.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will just go straight to the synopsis and the recommendations. Mr. President, the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, at its sitting on Thursday, 27th March 2025, deliberated on a motion urging the federal government to halt the sale of Lafarge Cement PLC to Chinese investors in the interest of national security, and referred it to the Senate Committee on Capital Market for further legislative action, as per the vote and proceedings of Thursday, 27 March 2025. Mr. President, the committee, after an extensive deliberation with the major stakeholders regarding this motion, made the following observations and findings, which I'm going to be very brief on. Mr. President, following an in-depth and meticulous hearing session that involved key regulatory bodies such as Corporate Affairs Commission, Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, and the Nigeria Investment Promotion Council, as well as the Bureau of Public Enterprise, the management team of Lafarge Cement PLC, and the prospective investors from Huzin Cement, the committee has compiled a series of observations and findings. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, the committee's observations are aimed at ensuring that all aspects of this monumental financial move were thoroughly evaluated and understood. This will not only uphold compliance with regulatory framework, but will also protect the interests of consumers and national economy at large. The findings derived from the discussions encapsulate the concerns, expectations, and strategic consideration pertinent to the substantial transaction with the contents of Nigeria's evolving market dynamics. In summary, Mr. President, the committee findings will serve as a fundamental reference as discussions progress regarding the future of Lafarge Africa PLC under new ownership and its potential role in driving growth and innovation in the cement industry. Mr. President, in conclusion, the committee, having looked at all the submissions of the government agencies involved in this transaction, is of the view that the transaction does not breach any instant laws and has not presented any security or economic risk to the country. We therefore recommend that the Chinese investors who Huzin Cement PLC reinvest more and upgrade all the existing plants. Furthermore, the committee emphasized the need and necessity for processes of this nature to always adhere to all laws and regulations guiding such transactions. We so submit, Mr. President. But before then, we want to thank Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues. On behalf of the committee, I thank you for the attention and the opportunity to serve you better. Thank you, Mr. President. Oh.
Yes, this is Senator Zakalo.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Ojo Zakalo. I want to thank Senator Oster Izunaso for what he has done. Nigeria economy is an open economy, and we do not want to stop anybody investing in Nigeria. We need more foreign direct investment. for people to come and invest. I do not see anything wrong in a company buying over another company. There is nothing wrong in that. So it is in order, Mr. President, under your leadership, that we are supporting foreign direct investment. And these are kind of investments we need. People in the world are watching. People in Africa are watching that Nigeria's doors are open for new investment under President Ahmed Bola Tinubu. So I want to thank my colleagues in that committee for sustaining the business environment and allowing the Chinese company to buy Lafarge. It is in line with our laws. I so support, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
Yes, Olameleka.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleague, Adeola Solomon Olamilekan, representing Ogun West Senatorial District in the Senate of the Federal Republic. Mr. President, let me thank the committee who have gone on a fact-finding mission concerning the transparency that is involved in the transfer of ownership of Lafarge Cement from the original owner to the new owner, which is a Chinese company. Mr. President, distinguished colleague, I will vividly recollect that we brought a motion to the floor of the Senate concerning the sale of Lafarge Cement. Mr. President, we are not against foreign direct investment into our country. We are not against in promoting business in Nigeria. But what we are saying is the transparency level that is involved in the sale of this company. What we are saying is that given Nigeria the first right of refusal, having been in the country for close to almost 100 years, we felt that holding of 16.19% by Nigerian investors is not enough. That if we have a Nigerian company or a Nigerian investor that can pick up the stake of the original owners of this particular company, we should be given that first of right refusal. Yes, sir. It is in this National Assembly that we passed the Local Content Act. And what does the Local Content Act tends to achieve? Is to protect Nigerians, is to protect our interests. As we speak, if you go to the oil and gas industry, no contract is awarded without Nigerians put it into consideration. And this has worked considerably well for us. We even went ahead, setting aside 1% sum of all contracts awarded in the oil and gas industry to be paid to the Local Content Act, which is deposited with the Bank of Industry. And what is that fund for? It's to empower Nigerians to be able to invest in the oil and gas sector. So what we are asking for, as much as I agree with the content and the intent of what this report is trying to tell us, but we are saying, is the right of Nigeria, is it well protected in the transaction? Is Nigeria given that first of right of refusal? Holding 16.19% is not enough. What if we have a Nigerian company or an investor that can take charge or take ownership of this company? That is our argument. That is what we are asking for. And what is the role of SEC in all of this transaction? We are not against foreign direct investment. We are not against promoting business in Nigeria. But what we are asking for, Nigeria must be protected. Nigeria must be given the first of right of refusal. We accommodated this company for over 100 years, almost 100 years. We give them necessary protection. The corporate social responsibility, what level of implementation? We are not asking that. That's not what we are asking for. But we are asking that is Nigeria is Nigeria given the opportunity to see if they have the capacity to acquire this company. Yes, the transaction might not take place at an international level, but we know that that transaction cannot go through without all necessary regulatory bodies in Nigeria playing an active role
in the sale and the disposition of this company. So, Mr. President, as much as I agree with the content of what this report says, which what I've seen in this report is that the committee has only gone on a fact-finding mission, and what they found on the field is what was reported to us. But the real issue that was raised in the body of the motion that was laid before the Senate was not addressed. Was not. So if the much they can do is this, I want to say that we are not satisfied. We know the company has gone because the transaction has almost been concluded. But going forward, Mr. President, this is the Nigerian Senate. This is not Senate of any part of the other country. We don't have any other Senate than this Senate. So Nigerians must be protected to the last. So, Mr. President, distinguished colleague, I commend. But at the same time, I said I am not satisfied because the committee never addressed the real issue upon which the motion that was laid before this house was predicated upon. I so submit, Mr. President.
Well, I don't want to preempt the decision of the Senate, but I think that to a large extent, you are right, because the issue was insider trading, and then was also the fact that there was a lot of secret